welcome everyone who's here or who is not, but still with us in one way or another. I wish to welcome you to this discussion, presentation, artist talk by Leslie Putnam. We're very happy to have her with us here alongside David Bobier. They're both coming from Ontario, Canada. Really, their artistic practice, their work is very much related to what we've been up to for the last couple of years with the project Audibility, which is part of a wider project co-funded by the Creative Europe program of the European Union called BER Art Infinity Radio. Audibility, and now this second chapter we're introducing with Leslie's and David's residency is called the Tangible Radio / Class on Air. We have several collaborators along here with us. I don't want to miss anyone. Panagiotis Panopoulos, our scientific advisor, is online. Tatiana Remundu, previous artist we've collaborated in Audibility in the school, is also here with us. Giorgos Mizithras and Kalliopi Takaki, also involved in this new chapter. Sorry, I'm also admitting people in. Without much further ado, I do want to give the floor to Leslie because it's much more important than listening to me. I just need to say that this event today and this project as a whole wouldn't be possible without the financial support of the Hellenic Ministry of Culture and Sports. And of course, the guys and girls wouldn't be, David and Leslie meaning, wouldn't be able to bring all this beautiful stuff with them. Oops, why is that? Yeah, switch the view. Gallery, okay. Yeah. Well, so without the help of Ontario Arts Council, what's the full?
Ontario Arts Council.
Ontario Arts Council. So I hope I'm covering everything. I will give the floor to Leslie. In case anyone needs parallel interpretation in the Greek Sign Language, we have Xenia Nikolakopoulou with us today. You can see her in the bottom left of your screen. But then, if you need online interpretation, just let us know and we'll figure out a way to send you a shared window, right? Cool, great. Okay, so enjoy.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Leslie Putnam. I go by she, her. I am wearing a blue top. I have white hair. I wear glasses. I am going to first thank you all for inviting me here. It's wonderful to be back in Greece after a very long time. And I just will say this is not a very linear presentation, but I find that I don't think in that way anyway. So I put it together with sort of the idea of my understanding of how I've moved through the art. So the first piece we have here has no sound. I'd also like to say that David Bobier here is helping me with this presentation with the vibrotactile pillows. So some of our audience members are able to feel some of the sound pieces. My pieces are not necessarily that you're going to see here specifically made for the vibrotactile. One is, but we're having some trouble uploading that, but we'll give it a go. So our audience members that have the pillows might not feel exactly a sort of translation, but it'll give you an idea of the sense that's created. And then at the end, I have my handheld vibrotactile piece that everyone will be able to feel. And then we're having a little demo with David about how the systems work. So this is a piece that started, I think I did about 4 years ago. It has no sound. The importance of the hand is in relation to my sort of becoming aware of the deaf and disability community through David when I met him, I think probably 15 years ago now. Before that, I did mostly visual arts, sculpture, outdoor pieces, things that were not as multisensory. So this hand piece came about after I started, 2 years after I started an art science course in my high school. So it was an opportunity for us to kind of throw out all the rules of teaching. And I, myself and a colleague, science teacher, we came together and we created a new program that had not been done. No bells, no timelines, no curriculum except for the very basics that would cover that year. So we were allowed to really integrate the art and the science. It was a fantastic program. There was a lot of pushback and then there was a lot of acceptance of it. Kids loved it. They were of all abilities, all different abilities, and came together because we believe that in this society, you know, this separation of academic and collegiate level, all these different levels, I don't understand, or we didn't understand why they separate them in school, and then you go out into the world and you have to live together and create work. So what happened after these 2 years, though, it was such a massive project that I became ill. So I started not feeling my fingers and toes. They thought it might possibly be something in my brain. We did all the tests, which of course was more stressful. Anyway, in the end, it turned out that my body was shutting down because I was working so hard. So I took a break. And then after I took a break, I went back to this old system of teaching just to kind of reintegrate myself. But I will say the best teaching I had ever done was when I did the art science together. It was so much work, but it was truly the most progressive and interesting thing I'd seen. And then after a year, I have retired from teaching so I can focus more on my artwork, and I still teach in classrooms to do workshops. Okay. You'll forgive me for you know, a little bit of slowness on transition sometimes. So this is one of the pieces that I'm very happy with. That was analog music. And what I did was create all these musical instruments. And this was a piece that was shown at a music festival. The Gentle Souls, on this one, Gentle Souls hand crank orchestral balladeers. So it was part of Sweet Magic London, and the little note underneath says the first of its kind in London, Ontario. The amateur, and it was important that it was amateur, Sound Fox Collective of Gentle Souls, create a composition in real time. And they're accompanied by our guest projectionist, David Bouvier. And these instruments and projections will revel in the gentlest of all possible productions. So that was the advertisement for it. Here's a picture of us getting ready.
Can I interrupt? I'm so sorry. We cannot
cannot
manage
share
to
the-
share the screen. If we
with
could
a-
maybe have 5 minutes to
To
share the screen from here.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think you need to do that.
Yeah, because I'm so sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
there's some, as you can see.
He still has some
Security.
arrivals. That's good.
Sorry for the
No.
interruption.
Security.
Do I have to do it from here?
You could, yeah, it
Yeah.
would be easier.
Oh, no, I'm
But
not
you're
on the
not
Zoom.
on the
Oh,
Zoom.
sorry,
Yeah, so
right.
just give us. Πώς γίνεται?
The other option is you just put your camera to that screen.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you
she was
Yeah.
trying to.
I was trying to do that.
well.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. I'll do the manual laptop camera.
Let's
and
try it
everything.
once
Yeah.
more, because
No,
since we
no.
have all the technology, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
it's-
because you have it on.
Yeah, it's on the
Yeah, it doesn't work. So let's
security
try the
and
other way.
privacy, open system preferences, security and privacy. We want
Couldn't
to,
care less. So let's do the other thing.
maybe we should just log,
And I guess if anyone has questions, but it's
Okay.
very early.
and now we have done it.
Nope. No, don't do that. Later. No, don't do that.
Okay, so
close.
just click it again,
Okay. Cool. And
Okay,
we'll
so
go.
let's see now if
okay.
it happens, because we have granted the access.
We have an extra, pillow too, about half.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If someone would like to try the pillow.
Okay, so now you can see our screen.
Ah, fantastic.
That's
Great.
perfect.
Great.
Just give us one more second.
Cool.
Yeah, if
It
so,
doesn't do it. So I'll do it manually, right?
Yeah,
Ah, it can. Okay.
it can, but now we are on the fourth
Yeah,
slide.
of course. Right. Yeah.
okay. Great. You did it.
Here we are. Yes.
Okay. No, that's no problem. David and I are going to try and sync too with the playing when we play music for the pillows. So there might be some other things. It's all good. Okay, so here's just simply what the instruments would look like. It's all found recycled materials, and they're pre-made music boxes. Okay. So I did not make the music, except on David's cameras, he punches out the music, and David, on those ones, he used Braille. He used Braille on the strips of the cameras, so that would work. Creating from Braille into sound. So the kids and the people, the adults all came in, and each one picked, I had them all on shelves, they each picked the instrument that seemed comfortable from them. Or for them, I mean. And then we did our little performance, and I'm only gonna play half of it because you'll see it's. We're gonna jump to this part here. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm at, wait, we'll stop and we'll sync it. Okay, so can you start it, David, at 4:09?
It's good, it's coming through.
Yeah, this is at 4:09, 4:09. 4:10, yeah,
Oh, okay.
let's sync it.
Yeah.
Okay, ready and go. Might be a delay on the photos.
Faster.
There.
In the light. So the point being with it, being a little hand crank orchestra, is that it was completely accessible, so that people who would have never participated in a little, group musical project could. And at that same festival, there was a young man, I can't remember his name right now, who did hand crank, and he was creating the score on his own. So it was like kind of a balance.
Sorry,
Yes,
sorry, please.
yes. The point of this accessibility, like to have it ready-made, was for people who would normally not have a chance to perform in a, orchestra type performance, that they could feel comfortable doing that. And that during this festival, there was also a young man, very well known, who created his score on the similar thing, like we had on the tape, I guess. So it was that counterbalance to a sort of very academic or higher trained musician, and people to participate in a different way. Nope, we don't want to do that again. Okay, next one is called Nest. And this has been, you'll see 3 or 4 iterations there in the next few slides. This is David and I as Oh Honey, when we come together to work on projects that are more based in nature or the examination of nature. We are working together as Oh Honey. So this piece, first of all, the sound piece, which we don't have, it's on an old computer somewhere, but it's just of a couple, 2 people discussing the movement of furniture around a house. So they're moving into a place and they're like, oh, you want the couch under the window. We always have to have it under the window. Maybe we could have it somewhere different. Just a very casual discussion. So that played underneath. And then we loaded up the nest. We created it at our studio, loaded it up the nest, and had to roll it up 3 stories of fire escapes in Toronto, Ontario, for Nuit Blanche. So this was the first time we presented it. So what happens is there's the nest in the room. It has no signage, so it doesn't say you can sit, you can, participate. It's just left like that. And then there's a camera on that. And then the camera projects to the outside hallway. And in the outside hallway, David and I sit with little books. And from 7 at night until 7 in the morning, we write down what we see. So for 12 hours, we write down what we see. So Nuit Blanche, I don't know if they have a thing like that here in Athens. It's just an all-night arts festival. So as artists, well, personally, I really liked it because I could just sit and observe. And so we have these books looking at, much like in nature where you observe animals, scientists do that. And we just watched what people did. And initially, people did not want to go into it, or they thought they couldn't. Can you touch it? And the other artists were quite worried that we didn't have a sign that said you could sit in it. And we're like, nope, just leave it. And then once one person went in, and the next person went in, and then it became like the Niagara Falls. I don't know if that's a good, like the Acropolis of Canada, where everybody had to go get their picture taken, which was kind of surprising. Not necessarily our intention, but that's how it ended up being. Okay. Funny story aside, oh no, I wanted to talk about the smell here. So because it was made out of willow, and it had been recently made, there was a really strong smell of nature to the nest. So as we rolled it through past the other rooms where there was art, people were really commenting on the smell. So this was in Toronto, Ontario, in a very busy area. And the biggest comment I think we had at the beginning was about the smell of it. And that sort of triggered in us this idea about the people really missing the smell of nature. And so I try and integrate that more into other works. And that's David having a little rest before we started. We also found a snake at the bottom of the nest when we brought it back home. So we put it in the truck and we brought it back home, and out came a little snake that went from our house to Toronto. I think it would be a great children's book. So then the next iteration of this, we did a Oh Honey piece in another gallery. So the nest was at the end of the hallway. This time we did not take field notes, but we had these pieces I made that had small little videos inside them. And they were of the process of making the nest and also of people going in and out of the nest. Part of a larger show. Okay. I think we'll leave this sound piece because David will be talking about this tomorrow. And this was, and I've been having trouble to play it. So maybe we'll play it afterwards. This is Janelle Rouse, Dr. Janelle Rouse. And we worked in conjunction with another city in Ontario, so Hamilton and London. And I created a sound piece for Janelle to wear. So she has the vibrotactile on the back of her back. Janelle is deaf. And she created then, she's a dancer, and she's the first Black deaf woman in Canada. Am I right, David, who has received her doctorate, in deaf studies. And then TJ Charlton created this video that went along with it. And the idea was that we took the two cities, and in the areas where these art galleries were, and they're more artist-run centers, we created a historical or a sound piece that was of the history of that neighborhood. So in my sound piece, which we can play later, it's that there was a factory. It's now just city, but there was a old fire hall. There was a fire that happened there, all these things. And so I brought those into the sound piece. And then this was another part of that festival. David did the vibrotactile behind. So behind this piece are exciters, transducers. I think you call the big ones exciters, right? I think everybody calls them. Anyway, but the transducers are behind, and behind, off to the side is the Vibrofusion lab. So we were able to connect those inside so that, oh, sorry, I'm going too fast. Yes.
Exciters.
Yes, yes, for sure. Sorry.
I'm just sure I got how to work together with David.
Okay, thank you. So David was taking care of the vibrotactile part, and they're called transducers. I guess we will just call them transducers. Yeah.
Sorry, the name again?
Transducer.
Would say morphotropeas in Greek.
Okay.
It switches. It's a translator of sonic energy
Yeah.
into vibrotactile vibration or kinetic energy. Sort of.
Yeah, it's close. That's good. Okay, so we were able to run this 24 hours a day. So it was up for, David, I don't remember, a couple of months. So it's just on the street, and it ran because the transducers don't wear the same, wear out. We're able to run it 24 hours a day. And so pedestrians were able to access it that much. And the important part is here, this space here has a transducer behind it specifically in that spot there. So that if you are deaf or hard of hearing, then your hand goes there. And so you can also understand the piece. And this here, all the material that it's made out of is local plants and some reworked pieces, I think still from the nest might be there. So I'll play that sound piece, and it's called Sithourism, which I imagine as Greek people, you all know what that is. It's an obsolete term for the sound of rustling leaves or wind in the trees. And it's just a really simple piece that goes on repeat, as I said, for those 24 hours. Okay, David, you're okay? That one can mix. Speak with that, or should I turn it off? You get you get this. I think what's interesting about this piece, and I kind of want to do it everywhere, but not necessarily this this exact piece. But again, I was able to get smell and sound and vibration all into one piece, and for me that is very successful for an artwork that I want.
I'll just clarify
Yes.
one thing too around transmission of sound into vibration is that there are certain frequencies that don't translate as vibration. And typically the range of frequency that you can feel through these systems tend to be in the lower frequency range. So once we get up into higher frequencies, they pop out, and anything higher than that you're not going to feel. But we're attempting to move up into that higher frequency. That's what we're working on now. But that's just to explain that there's going to be certain things that you're not going to feel here that are audible.
And I guess I'd add also to what David just said, there are, they've made certain things like the chairs that have this huge range, so you can feel it moving up and down your body, but you'll hear more from David on that. And I'm also trying to, they're working on a wireless, because for me, a wireless is super important for what I would like to do, but it will come. They have Bluetooth, but once you have more than one Bluetooth, it just doesn't work. Okay, next one is called I Keep Trying to Tell You, and they're sound pods. This was in also a few iterations in different places, because of course, when you spend months and months on a project, you try and, you know, bring it everywhere you can. So this is in Chatham, Ontario. This is in, there's a place, those of you who are interested in sound art, look up Electric Eclectics. It's this really fantastic festival. It's a crazy festival that they run for 3 days, I think. Yeah. 3 days.
International
Yeah.
sound artist, musician, very eclectic
Very
people, and it takes place on an artist, Gordon Monahan, who is quite a renowned Canadian artist, sound artist.
Yeah.
On their farm called the Funny Farm. So that sets the tone for the festival.
And David Monahan and his partner, they lived in Germany when the wall fell, I think, and they had this store. She makes, like, their house is literally covered in stuff. I don't even know how. Kitsch. But anyway, so this was my installation there at Electric Eclectics, which was really nice to have it outside and sort of get a different perspective there. The pods are made out of felt and wax and spices. So they are quite smelly in a nice way, I think, because the beeswax, of course, when it gets warm, is even more beautiful smell. And then inside some of them, you'll see this here. So there's my little amp. Some of these cords here go into this amp. And then from that, they go into the suitcase, this little suitcase here, and this suitcase here at the other place. This was from a show called Sound Assembly, which was sound artists. Then that played this sound piece, which again is very simple, but I think with the materials, it works well. So we'll play that, David. Do you wanna try?
Yeah.
Oh, it's already. Yeah. There we go.
No. 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 No.
The beepers.
No. 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 No, 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 hello, no, 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 hello, 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 no, no, hello, no, 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 hello, no, no, hello, no, 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 no.
Oops. That I wanted to stop it. That gives you an idea. So what happens is the audience, by the sound and the smell, they get drawn into it. In this case, here I'm going to use my finger. In this case, I was able to have more of an arc around it so that people could move into it. And all these works are touchable. So they're made out of materials that it's not a problem for me to have people touch them. Although in museums, they don't like that still. So that they like, please do not touch. But in this one, for sure, this was a textile art show. They didn't have signage, so people could touch them. So those speakers, I think there were 8 of them. It was all coming out from different angles, the sound. Okay, and now is sort of what I've been working on the last few years. And I had studied ceramics at Concordia University. And then as an artist, when you leave a studio, a student artist, you leave a studio, and of course you don't have access to a studio. So that's how I started using all the other materials. I mean, I made artworks of different materials in university too, but my first sort of love was ceramics. So what happened is I walked into a studio in London, Ontario, a small one, and they were open to having members. So it was sort of my chance, and it felt like an old studio when I was in university, and I was like, okay, this is now what I'll do. I can explore ceramics again. But because of all the other work I did with sound and, you know, light, texture, all those things, it changed how I thought about ceramics. So what I wanted was ceramics that was not practical, not functional, was sculptural, but that people could hold. And that was first my main goal. And so the first iterations of this were these sort of handhelds that I called. So everything that was delicate had to go inside so that you could hold it, right, and not damage it. So I started with this kind of thing. And then I started playing around with more tough sort of structures so that people could hold the whole thing but still have that sensory in a way. So this piece here has all the metal, so it makes this jangling sound. You can touch it, you can play with it, you can change its shape. And then this piece here is a handheld bowl, so I guess you could use it for practicality, but I was thinking of light and how your hand would touch that in different ways, how you could explore it. Here's one that didn't make it out of the kiln. Working with porcelain is really tricky. So each time you have a bend in it, it can split. But this one had small porcelain beads inside to make the sound piece. Very simple, but hard to make. Simple idea. And then these are ones I'm working on now and sort of dream pieces because I don't know how they will go. This one is again playing that idea of technology and nature. So it looks like it works at this point, but it does not because I have to figure out how to get the tech somehow working with that. But these pieces would light up and there would be a sound element. This is kind of a small piece, so I don't know, Raspberry Pis or whatever. And then this is a new one I started where there will be 12 large sculptures like this made out of porcelain. Then they will be printed in 3D printing so that people can touch them. So if you're blind, it's accessible to you. And I think what's important about that is this is really delicate and so many tiny pieces that was the problem. Is like, how is it not going to break? Museums will not take it, right? So, but they will take it if it's a visual on a, you know, plinth. And then I would have the 3D printing in a really tough material. So that could be accessible. And then this little funny cone would sit then below that. So a wheelchair accessible, and people could put their hands on that to feel the vibration. And in this case, I can't zoom in so much, but this is dragonfly. And so it would be the sound a dragonfly makes. So there would be these 12 pieces in a circle. That's something I'm proposing to do. Oops. Not sure which one we have here. It just takes a second. Yeah. So let's turn up the sound. So these are my little analog pieces. Oh, did you hit? It might not be loud enough. I'm not sure.
There's no vibration.
Nothing. Says. I'm trying again.
I just can hear some,
Yeah.
frequency,
Feedback.
sound.
Okay.
I cannot feel it.
You want to try again, David?
Yeah, kind of,
It might be too quiet, so we can
no, I'm
try.
not getting that.
All right.
Yeah, but I'm not getting the. Figure.
Oh. put it in. Let it go.
Sorry.
Okay, so that is a little one. I kind of see an executive with that on their desk and to be human and play with something like that. Oops, no, want to go.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, this is like that. This one. Also, I can say,
Now it started this vibration.
okay, good, good. I'd also like to say that in Canada now, we have this thing called relaxed performance. And even as teachers, we started doing this because, you know, when you're in a meeting and you just need to move or go or stand up, we do that now. It's not considered rude, like in a teaching environment. You go do what you need to do. You come back if you have to, because they trust as a professional that you will, you know, do what you need to do. But in theater, it's called a relaxed performance. And so like at school, we have children who have disabilities like Tourette's, or they're nonverbal, but they're verbal. And so in this gymnasium with 1,000 kids, they make lots of noise, even when people are presenting something that's supposed to be very quiet, and that's fine. So I just wanted to say at this moment in time, if anybody is tired or needs to nap or anything like that, I don't have too much more to go, but I would not take it as a problem. It's really important, I think, to acknowledge that for the audience. Okay, here's my next one. So this, I think, I was really happy with this one because it made a heartbeat, and I use a heartbeat often. And well, just that's it. It just makes a heartbeat. Thank you. So it's porcelain also, yeah. A tricky one too. Okay, here's a latest one, which is again analog, but really surprised me. So paper clay is clay that has paper mixed into it so that you can really stretch it. And then that's glazed, and then the centerpiece is porcelain. So we'll turn that up nice down. I'll play it twice. Don't know if you hear the echo on it so much. I'll do it one more time if that's okay.
Paper clay. The thing you
It's-
make the masks. You can make masks out of paper clay.
Yeah,
well.
you could do,
I
you
think
can
it's
do, yeah, anything.
Familiar.
It's actually ceramic. There is paper clay that's made from paper that you don't fire.
Okay.
This you do fire, and it has like grog in it and paper fibers, so that you can go really thin with it. You can do a lot more. So it's really that end sound where it's like making that funny echo that I really like. So I have to experiment with that. Sure. I'm doing all this stuff is on my Instagram too. So it's just Putnam L. And then you can listen to it 100 times if you want. It was the weirdest thing. This piece the clay paper and porcelain. I don't know why it's not. Yeah, that one, I put it up and one day later it had 13,000 views. So I don't know if people were just listening and listening and listening again, but it was quite surprising. Okay, so now the fun part.
It's me. It's me.
Okay, so this is my real love. Just gotta make sure it's all going. Yeah, okay, that's for in a minute. Yeah. So then, because David had introduced me to all those years ago, this lovely transducer thing, I thought I wanted to make a sculpture that you could carry around and it'd be vibrotactile, no wires. So I started out with wires. Am I okay for time? Okay. So here's a proposal I did for Science Gallery Detroit. This distracted me. And what this would have been is 12, I always use 12, different pieces around this central spot. And it was going to be called Conversation Piece, P-E-A-C-E, and, oh, yeah, there's that, and peace. And a komati, K-E. Anyway, it was just before COVID. So it was shortlisted and then COVID happened. But of course I continued working on this. This piece here is a prototype, and the Ontario Arts Council just gave me funding so that I can experiment more and learn with different materials and take it to schools that I'm going to work with. My school that I was at before, the students are going to make these pieces that will not look anything like this and will not sound anything like this. That will be their work. So I'm really excited to see what the students will do. And we'll pass it around in just a minute. Okay, and this is the students experiencing it. I will say what they're saying because it's a little tricky. So he says, ah, wow, it's comforting. It's nice. It's really comforting.
It's a noise too.
Okay.
It looks like the front of like
It looks like the front has like a blowfish.
in the front. That's why I can get.
That's what I
That
tried.
looks like a thing, so like-
Looks like a
Oh.
big, oh,
Oh.
oh,
The poster always makes
Some
it feel
noise
like,
too.
I'll
also
show like
it's
art,
yellow.
but I like shit.
Hard.
It's just like,
That's
not
not
like art.
It looks like the front
I
of
feel like
like
I'm like,
fishes in the front. That's why I can guess.
Oh my god.
And that looks like a fin.
oh
So
my
like
gosh.
Oh.
Oh.
It's like this, but you
Like,
know.
but I don't, the shape differs from what a art picture usually.
I feel like I'm like a mother.
Love that girl. She's studying in that. Well, I loved all of them.
This
But
is
she's
actually
studying
so
in-
Oh my gosh.
Okay, and then just a little bit about
It's
my
like
teaching.
you put like a
So
cloth
here's a
that's
project
puffy.
for the art science that we worked with Jennifer Willett, who's a bio artist at the University of Windsor, Dr. Jennifer, and she's the big head of something. We're not going to play that right now, but it can be for people to listen to later. She's talking to the students, so there's 50 kids in the room, and she's talking to them about how they're learning. So in this method of learning, the students decide how they are going to learn and show us as teachers what they learned. So instead of, it's a really typical project for 14-year-olds in science to learn electricity. They all build a little house out of wood, or the house is already built, and they just wire a house. And that's very typical. And so every kid does the same thing. But what we did with this class is we just put every kind toasters, radios, and we just said, okay, figure out how they work. So they played around with them, and they had, 4 hours to do that. And then the next day we said, okay, you have to build a circuit. So the science teacher taught circuits and electricity and how it works. And I talked about the cabinet of curiosities. Is that, cabinet of curiosities. So they had to make an object for the cabinet of curiosity and make a circuit in that object. So kids made books that opened up and made funny sounds. There were things that were supposedly found in the forest that glowed. So they really created interesting artworks from this premise. And she's a bioartist. We did a different project with her that was, again, for this grade 9, they have to do biology, chemistry, physics. I'm looking at you. So they had to do these main subjects. And with Jennifer, they did, it was like a little, when you have to study all the particles in the air and how they work. I wish my teacher was with me, my science teacher. So what they did was they took Petri dishes and they took a swab from their environment. And then they put that swab into the gel to grow, not mold, but fungus, sort of like that. But nothing dangerous, of course. And underneath that, they created an artwork that was of that environment. So the mold grew on to their environment, what they did. And they were, 14-year-old kids, so they were doing under their armpits and their feet. They were having lots of fun. So I can't, unfortunately, and I didn't know this, I can't access my teaching slides here because they're in Google. So I can't show you those images, but maybe I can. If people are interested, just contact me. It was a really fun project. They loved it. Oh, we're not going to play her. And then we did this thing called Banting Science Gallery. So we went into the east end of the city, and the kids had to create, this was the next year, they had to create a science show about the environment, and whichever way they wanted to do it. So they used photography, they used sculpture, some used electricity, and that was their very first project of the year. So they had essentially to learn whatever they needed to do for their specific project in the first week, because it was scheduled to go into a show in 2 weeks, and they're 14 years old, so it was very tricky. But this was the whole class at the end, and this was one of the works they created. So there were 5 kids in charge of this little sound piece that they did, and the other ones were inside the gallery. And we were very, very proud of them because they did this in such a short period of time. And of course, because it's a new thing, the heads of the school board come, and they were saying that it was essentially a project that normally would have been done at the end of the year because it was very sophisticated. But the kids can do so much more than we expect of them, right? So it was not a problem for them. They were a little stressed, but I said, that's the art world too, right? You just have to get it done. You can't wait. And there's David helping them out to put the piece in, to connect it. And then here's their little piece at the end, little sound piece. Just got to get that up. Maybe. Oh, David's got it. I think we're just having a lag. Oh, you've got it too.
Yeah.
Everybody's got it. But... Yeah. So. Okay, so really short clip, but you can see from 14-year-olds, they went with this idea in nature of the big city where it's all dirty and the cars are going, and then this little sweet spot of nature. So that was that. And this is my last piece, which I'm just going to tell you because I liked it. And it's called, and I didn't probably spell it right, it's Itlameni Mukardia, and it was from 2021. And of course, because I'm here in Greece, I didn't know I was coming when I made this, but it happened during COVID. And if I can read it, the radio with its daily updates, the horrors and small victories of these times, the permission to just make as a means to cope. This is how I moved through the past year. The work I submit here is a synthesis, a visual diary, really, of the process of bringing all of my thoughts together in one place. Confined, I found a way to create, not meaning, but some sense of what I was experiencing. And that is that. So now I'll just pass this baby around, if that's all right.
You would laugh before.
Thank you. I think this is really important. So